Ta-da! We got the doors open. All right. Ah, Dick Grieger's here. All right. What's up, Richard Grieger? Tony, how did we determine everybody was going to communicate on this one?
This one we did not say if they didn't ask about the mics, but we could because this is
No, that's okay. I mean, we could have folks go into the chat, I think.
sure.
Yeah, so I'll put the chat up on a screen that I could see it. I'll move me around a little bit. And then perfect. All right, good. All right, Richard, can you hear and see us? Give you the chat. Hey Tony, why don't we do this? Let's open up the volume for everybody so they could just talk. There you go. I think that did it.
Hmm.
All right, perfect. All right. Richard, good to see you.
Yes.
All right. We get everybody a minute to get started. Tony, we sent out a reminder, right?
Yes, we did.
We had a lot of folks sign up, so I guess we have to give it a minute. So normally it's a pour in when 11 o'clock comes around the corner. Ba, 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 ba. All right, so we got this. There's a tough market. Okay, slowly getting some folks in. Hello, everybody, as you're joining us. All right. Mari's here. Hello, Mari. Mari, can you hear us? She's unmuted. We're not sure. All right. Gina's here. Very nice. What's up, Gina? Suzanne.
Hello.
Suzanne's here. Very nice. Getting everybody added through here. Tony, I think we got to do that one by one, huh?
Yes, you do.
All right. So we are allowing mic access to this as everybody kind of filters into the room. We'll give everybody, I'm starting out. The good news is that this one will certainly not go an hour unless you guys have lots and lots of questions. And ultimately, hey, Jen. Jen, I'm still waiting for Samson pictures, just so you know.
Hey there. You know what? I'm gonna send them to you in like 2 minutes. I
All
have them
right.
ready.
Tony, the treats are already ate because Tony packed that package, so it's all good. All right. Perfect. All right, everybody. So we are slowly getting everybody piled in here. Mr. Fetzer's in here. That's good. And getting everybody in here. We'll give everybody a minute or so, and then I'm gonna start on this. Um, yeah, I got starting on this. Yeah, the beginning of this is important, so I just wanted to. We don't really have a sponsor to take up time or anything like that. And I'm going to jump right into the material once I feel like we've got a few folks on here. So we're doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Thank you, Tony, for that. I just got to open up the chat a little bit so I can see. So you guys can communicate with questions either via the chat or you could just ask. And basically, what we're going to be talking about is how we're going to win transactions in a tough market. In spite of the rates going up since March 1st, we're still seeing certain areas in the Chicagoland, in the Chicago area that are coming in with multiple offers, 16 offers, 12 offers, you name it, even three or four. Now, that's not a blanket statement for the entire Chicago area. However, I do believe that once we have things settled out in the Middle East, rates will come back down, and that's just going to continue to feed into our market. those agents that are here should know we're in the second tightest inventory in the nation here. And one other stat that I wanted to talk about too is that Redfin just recently reported that there were 600,000 more sellers than buyers. But please note that is a national statistic. And as a national statistic, that is not indicative of what's going on here in Chicago, where active listings are literally about 60% less than they were in 2019. So we're in a tight inventory market. That means we're going to be competitive on our offers. And the biggest issue that I'm going to cover today is really offers for your FHA buyers, because this strategy is for FHA buyers. So let's just get right into it. If I can get with either a show of hands, maybe comments into you guys can either hit the reaction button for a thumbs up or just put a yes in the chat. How many people have lost a offer where they were asking for seller's concessions? Da, 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 da. Guys, give me a thumbs up, give me a yes. How many of you out there have lost an offer when you're asking for seller's concessions? Hi, Yolanda. Anybody else? Yolanda's the only one that's lost an offer when asking for seller's concessions. Come on, guys, you guys can speak up. Hey, Joni. All right. Anybody else? Just Yolanda is the only one that's lost an offer when you're asking for seller's concessions. Anybody else? You guys can speak too. All right. Well, we're going to go into this anyway. So we're going to basically show you guys what to do if you've got a buyer who's short. What we're going to talk about today is literally another strategy. That's all this is. It's a strategy to help your buyer who may not have enough funds and may be trying to lean on the seller to get funds. We're going to give you guys another option. So we know that when we're making an offer that has seller's concessions requested and we're in a competitive world, that's probably not going to play out too well. If we've got competition that doesn't need these seller's concessions, we're going to be in a little bit of an issue. Requesting seller's concessions certainly weakens our offer. It's obviously, as you guys know, it reduces the seller's net and really hurts. So what are some alternatives? I'm going to talk about IDA next as an alternative because it sets up for our last strategy, which is why you guys all came in here. So IDA, an acronym for Illinois Housing Development Authority. So for sure, one of the best programs out there. One of the things that IDA is beating their drum now, JB Pritzker came out and said, hey, we created this product that now has a $15,000 down payment assistance through IDA. Certainly a lot of money, a great help. Couple things you guys should know about the $15,000 program that wasn't really mentioned in the rollout. That $15,000 from IDA, that money will be paid back to IDA when that first mortgage is paid off. So whenever they pay off the first mortgage, if they have that first mortgage for 30 years, great, but they're going to have a $15,000 payment due at the end. If they want to refinance in 2, 3, 4 years, they still have to pay back that $15,000. And certainly when they sell, if they sell before the term, they're going to pay back that $15,000. So it's a good program relative to, hey, here's some extra money that's available. We know that it's expensive here to close in the Chicagoland area as far as closing costs are concerned. So having the $15,000 is definitely going to help. But it definitely has, it's got some strings attached. It's a second lien on the home. The home's going to be a little upside down at the closing. A couple other things that I also wanted to share with you guys on that. So unlike the other IDA programs that are out there, the $15,000 has different income restrictions. In fact, they're much more conservative than the standard non-targeted area IDA program. So if you have, and it's based on the number of people in the household. Now, when I say that, I know a lot of agents go, oh no, they're counting all the income for everybody in the household. That's not accurate. We're only counting the income for the applicants on the loan. However, the limits are determined by the number of people living in that home. So conservatively, if you've got a client who's actually buying a piece of property and only an individual, single individual, and they want to take advantage of the $15,000, that income cap is 117,600. How different is that than the rest of the IDA programs? Well, the rest of the IDA programs for a non-targeted area is $143,880. So it is much more conservative. Now, if you do have a household that has three or more people, apparently I didn't mute my phone. Sorry, guys. If you do have a household that has three or more people, that limit does go up to 134,520. But again, keep in mind, it is definitely a little bit more conservative than your standard IDA. All IDA programs in non-targeted areas definitely have income restrictions. And there is a little bit of a purchase price restriction on the $15,000, but for FHA, it's not relevant because it's right about the FHA limit. All right. So we could use IDA as a strategy for an FHA buyer. And certainly we've kind of talked about the other IDA programs in short, in case you didn't know. There's a $6,000 program, which is a second lien added to the property and then forgiven 10 years from now. So 10 years from now, IDA will release that mortgage. It is a prorated situation. So if your clients sell in 5 years, they would technically only owe half of the 6,000. The other program is 7,500. That program is exactly like the 15,000. You do end up having to pay that back to IDA at some point. And then the last IDA program that's out there is $10,000. That program is repayable over a 10-year period at 0% interest. Payments are roughly $81, $82 a month. Again, if you have a client that's short and you're in a situation where you need closing cost concession or seller's concessions, IDA is a good way to avoid that. However, we do have another strategy. That's why you guys are all here. All right. We've got covered the IDA. Anybody have any questions about the new IDA program, the old IDA program? No. All right. Moving into our strategy here. One of the other things about this strategy is we know that roughly 1 out of 5 homeowners do not have quite enough money saved. And we also know, which isn't featured on the slide, that homeowners that get into a piece of property and they just close and they've pretty much got all their money at the table and they don't have strong reserves, those homeowners' likelihood to default is much, much higher than a homeowner that does have some money in the bank when they close. I say that because maybe the use of IDA or the strategy that we're going to talk about this morning could be used to help somebody who has the money, but let them keep it in the bank. Let them start to build that as their emergency fund so they don't have the potential high risk of default. Now, let's see, let's go to the next slide. So what we're talking about now relative to the third strategy. First strategy was, hey, we get money from the seller. Not great in a competitive market. Strategy number 2 for your FHA buyers that are short money, go to IDA. That's great, but IDA's got restrictions. We just talked about it. Income restrictions. We didn't talk about, IDA has a credit score restriction at 640. This next strategy is much different than anything else that you guys seen out here. This strategy basically involves a solar backed structure. So what we're talking about is a structure where we can provide down payment assistance or money for closing costs, money for down payments, money even for, I will go here, money even for covering buyers' agents' commission. We're providing 3.5% of the purchase price that's basically part of something that we'll call solar structure, solar strategy, if you will. The client, and by the way, this isn't free money. We kind of bill it a little bit as free money, but it's not. I'm going to tell you why it's not free money in a second. The option here would be we can provide the 3.5% down, and it's a standard FHA loan. So there are no income restrictions. If you've got a buyer you're working with right now that makes $150,000, they don't have access to IDA. If you've got a buyer you're working with right now that's got a 620 score or a 600 score, they don't have access to IDA. FHA will go down to a score of 580 with as little as 3.5% down. We do that here at Cross Country. So that's definitely important to know. The how we structure, let me just get into this. I want to go back really quick. I may have to exit this really quick because I'm not seeing how I can go back. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. Let me just go back really quick. All right. And we want to go here and full screen. Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to move this over here. So here's this particular program involves a client who is able to finance solar as part of the purchase, but the solar company provides the 3.5% so that we can use that for closing costs, down payments. I mentioned before, potentially buyer's agent's commission. It could be used for pretty much anything. Here's how it works. We have your client pre-approved up to X amount of dollars. We basically get them qualified for this program. Again, keep in mind, no income restrictions as it relates to IDA, no credit score restrictions. If they qualify for an FHA loan, they're going to qualify for this structure. They then, once we go to contract, we hook them up with a company that actually presents a solar basically offer, if you will. Like, hey, we're going to put a solar panel on the home. And then part of that, since we're going direct to the solar company and there's not a salesperson, if you will, that's out there knocking on doors like some of these solar folks do, they're going direct to the manufacturer. The savings they're generating in doing that is savings that they're giving back to our clients in the form of down payment assistance. For the most part, it's going to be about 3.5% of the purchase price. We have two companies that we do this with. One company caps that at $13,000. The other company caps that at $16,000. Now, yes, your client doesn't have to agree to do solar. And I just talked about originally, this is a strategy. If your client's not interested in solar, cool. We'll go back and look at IDA, or we'll have to rely on seller's concessions. However, if your client is willing to be open to the option of having solar, we can then get them qualified without them having to wait to get a 640 score or be lucky enough to get their seller's concessions approved in a tight inventory market. Now, once they have the bid for the solar, you guys don't have to wait for the installation as agents. In fact, it really doesn't slow the process down at all. The quote for the solar happens in 24 hours. Our normal turn times for FHA approvals are about 3 weeks beginning to end, assuming the buyer is good with providing their funds. We can do it faster if they're fully underwritten. The solar's installed afterwards, so it has nothing to do, it doesn't have any impact on the closing date. It's not like a FHA renovation loan where it's going to take a little bit longer because it's got to get appraised. None of that actually impacts this. Now I want to go into what we talked about, what it can cover. I do need to move one screen. So we already talked about the challenges you would have with the typical down payment assistance program. And one of those challenges being that some of the funds come and go. Sometimes there's classes that are required. Sometimes there's actual 1099s that are issued for certain things. There's income caps. We talked about that. Definitely adds a second lien. IDA for sure is going to be a second lien to the borrowers. And then IDA, having that lien with IDA could potentially prevent a refinance for sure. Now, I know that there's agents out there that probably have a negative thought about solar, and I want to talk about how this is different from things you've seen in the past. These clients are able to actually purchase the solar outright, which means there's no 20-year lease, there's no second lien that's tied to the property. They literally own this solar outright. Now, I called one of my appraisers. I don't want to take it as a fact from the solar people. I said, hey, look, Dave, one of my friends, he's one of our great appraisers. I said, if somebody adds a $30,000 solar system onto their property, what does it really add to value? As we know, improvements tend to add to value. He said about 40%. He says you should get about 40% of that cost immediately added to the value. Keep in mind, this is equipment purchased outright. It's going to get sold with the home when the home is sold. Now, one other thing to note, though, in the entire state of Illinois, they do not assess property tax on the value of the solar. There is an exemption statewide that, let's say it's a $30,000 system, 40% of that's $12,000. They will not assess property taxes to the value of the solar. So it is exempt. That's something that's important to know. And that's across all counties. Now, if in fact we're able to use this strategy, then we have very simple underwriting, very simple basic FHA guidelines apply. And the actual solar portion of it, again, we're not worried about an appraisal situation because FHA will allow the solar to be financed, providing the solar stays under 120% of the value. So the appraisal itself has nothing to do with the solar. I don't need it to have anything to do with the solar. Outside of the fact that they're getting a solar system for the property, this is a standard FHA loan. And with the exception of the fact that we're adding the cost of the solar. Now, I want to talk about a couple other things in here. The solar itself, will it wipe out their ComEd bill? Absolutely not. Because ComEd has some things that are charged regardless of whether or not you're paying for energy. If you look at your bill, there's still some things that you have to pay for because ComEd is bringing the power there. You don't pay for energy, so that part comes off, but it typically could take an average $100 electrical bill and drop it to about $25. So also one of the things to be concerned with is the increases since 2020 in our electric bills. So yes, in fact, the client is going to pay a little bit more because they just financed the solar system onto the mortgage, but they do have savings in electricity. And the bigger question is, how much more expensive can the electricity get? In Illinois alone, our electrical prices are up 40% from 2020. The other concerns that you have with Illinois and a lot of other states is that these data centers are going to be taking more power. The data centers that have been approved already can take from Illinois Power. All future data centers are going to be asked to create their own power, but there's definitely concerns about the cost of electricity going up because of that. And then we've got, of course, grid issues. Fortunately, Chicago isn't in any of these particular areas, but certainly grid issues are a little bit of an issue. All right, I want to share with you guys a couple of the things that we came up with. Okay, let me get to this slide. Okay. We can get them if they choose this strategy. And again, this is a strategy only, guys. We can get them 3.5%. They could get more, but it involves having a larger solar system. We've looked at those and we don't think that the value is there personally, but if they need it, they could get more with the larger system. Let's talk about the forgivable second. So there's actually two different programs we work with. One of the programs for the 3.5% down, they do issue the client a 1099. However, when the solar panels are installed, they do issue a tax credit, which will offset any income that came from the 1099. The other program that we have, that one will place a second mortgage on the property for 90 days. At the end of 90 days, that second mortgage is forgiven. And basically, they got the 3.5% in both cases, really, without any strings attached. So, no second liens, nothing to worry about there. The other thing that I did, because the question that I have received from agents when we've talked about this program is, when is this client going to break even? So I ran some stats through AI and said, okay, look, we're going to buy, again, $300,000 home. We've got a $30,000 solar system. We're putting down 3.5%. Keep in mind, the 3.5% is only on the purchase price. We will finance 100% of the solar. The 3.5% is only on the purchase price. But when we ran these through AI and we said, okay, this is our situation. When is our client going to be not underwater? Because day one, just like with an IDA loan for the most part, they're underwater. So when will they not be underwater because they financed the solar in? Now I used the 4.5% appreciation. If I'm right, Chicago appreciated last year at about 4.8%. When I used 4.5%, they said that the client should break even in under 12 months and they could sell the property, pay all the standard closing costs, realtors fees, and whatever about 2 years from now. They wouldn't make any money, but they also wouldn't be coming to the table. Now, I got a little bit more deep with AI and I said, okay, what if our appreciation for the next 24 months after we closed on this client was 3.5%? They still broke even or were above within 12 months, but the time frame that it took to be able to sell that property and not have to bring anything to closing went from about 24 months to about 30 months. So ultimately, it's definitely, it's a product, yes, they're going to start out a little bit underwater, but for somebody who is not getting their offer accepted, and again, guys, this is just another strategy. The alternative to not using this program is renting for another 12 months. And that's very, very expensive. And again, if we have 3.5 to 4.5% appreciation, they're also losing out on that appreciation as well. And if they do wait another 12 months, because they didn't have access to funds, you couldn't get them an offer accepted. They didn't qualify for IDA. They're going to pay another 12 months worth of rent at $2,000 a month, let's say. It's $24,000 that they just wasted. That is a big, big deal. Let's go to some other parts of this. Okay. So how this works, and I talked about this a little bit. I don't sell solar. That's not my gig. This is a strategy to help them get down payment assistance when they don't qualify for other things. They will get a welcome call from the solar company. They do get a little bit of guide. They do get some guidance and an explanation. One of the two programs we have does provide financial assistance. If you come to me and say, hey, I'm really concerned, I want to make sure these guys are doing the right thing, and I'd be more comfortable that they have financial assistance, that's a program we're going to use. Now, keep in mind, that's a 6-hour course that they're required to take before they close, but it covers everything, and they do provide post-closing financial assistance. So a couple other hours that they're given so that they get help in budgeting and a lot of other things. Now, I have another program that doesn't require any of that stuff, but there are times when we look at a client, we say, it's probably not a bad idea that they do some counseling. We know for a fact that if we have a client that goes through home buyers counseling, that they go into default 35% less than somebody who's never taken any financial counseling. So we do encourage it. as much as we can because we are big fans of our clients having a successful homeownership journey and keeping their house for a long time. These are just some things that we got with regards to feedback. Again, we do some things, there's some support provided by these other companies. So that's good. And got some other stuff here. All right. I did a little bit more due diligence relative to AI and the solar option, knowing that, yes, this is going to cost them money to get this assistance, but they are getting a solar system on the property. And when we ran it through AI said, based on the fact that they believe the cost of energy is going to continue to go up, this solar at the end of, let's say, 25 years, even after the cost for the solar, your clients should be up net $25,000 to $30,000 net because of having this system. Again, solar isn't for everybody. I know agents out there that are a little anti-solar because of the leases and the second liens and some of the stuff there. This doesn't include any of that. This particular program, they buy it outright, and it's just an opportunity or an alternative outside of VITA and in a tight market outside of asking for sellers' concessions. Any questions on any of this, guys? So I'll give you a couple of real life examples that we had. The first ones that we did, oh yeah. Yeah, you can unmute to ask or you can type it in the chat. The first two programs that we did with this solar were new construction homes in St. Louis. The clients the first homeowner had a 602 credit score, not qualifying for Missouri's DPA or Illinois for that matter. The other client had a 598. We were able to put a brand new solar system on their brand new home and give them the down payment assistance that what they needed. Here, we've already done them here in Chicago. This program works. It's an alternative. Some of your clients, you'd be surprised if you ask them about solar, they actually might be excited about it because we've already seen that as well. You've got some clients, you guys are losing offers on FHAs because of sellers' concessions. This is just another strategy. If you've got a client that might be interested in it, reach out to us and we'll talk to them. I am going to now just pitch some of the things we got coming up. And let's see here. Let me open this up so I can see you guys. Okay, good. All right. So on some of the things we have coming up, on Tuesday, we do have a live renovation lending class that's going to be at the Main Street Organization of Realtors. We're going to be talking about all things renovation. Our renovation expert, Jose Valdivinos, will be in the house. If you guys haven't heard him speak, he's got way more energy than I do. Just a great guy. And we'll be at the Rolling Meadows Main Street offices at 10 a.m. doing training there with lunch provided afterwards. Virtually, our next event, April 14th, this is the first one that we're ever doing. We're going to do a Realtor call night, meaning all of you guys are going to jump on this kind of format right here that you can see. We're going to talk about a couple scripts that you guys can use, and we're going to be calling into our database, our expireds, our FSBOs, whatever you guys are going to call. I'm going to try to get you a couple good scripts from some people that I know, and we're all going to call together collectively. Obviously, we'll be muted, similar to this, but we're going to report some of our success stories in the chat, how we're doing, and you never know, I might have some fun prizes for you guys if you guys are hitting it. I've been asked to do that. I'm really excited to do that. We're going to be dialing as well on our end into our database as well. Then we do have our next event after that is April 23rd. We will be live at the Main Street Organization of Realtors in Rolling Meadows talking about credit. So we'll have Jim Drusky out there from Illinois Credit Services. Jim and I have been friends for 2 decades. He's owned Illinois Credit Services as long. I normally keep 2 vendors for everything. I don't with Jim. He's just that good. He's locally based. He's very affordable. He's an expert witness in federal court on all things credit. He's the guy that I want to learn about credit from. And you guys can do April 23rd. And the last thing on Tony's list here is we're also bringing Jim back down to the Main Street Organization of Realtors office in Tinley Park on April 29th. So we'll be live for most of those events. And Tony's got some of the links in the chat. If you guys have any questions about what we call our Sunny Savings Program, give me a ring. It's a good alternative to asking for seller's concessions in a hot market. Any questions? Oh, Brenda, did you have a question? I see your hands raised. Brenda? Brenda? Unless she raised her hand to say she was one of the. Oh, there you are.
No question. I'm sorry.
No,
Accident.
you're fine. You're fine. Were you raising your hand because you had lost the deal from seller's concessions?
No, I just accidentally did that.
All right. Well, I'm going to raise a hand to wave goodbye to you guys. Thank you guys very much for attending. I appreciate you. If you need to know more about the program, you want us to share it with you or your offices, please reach out to us. Guys, have an amazing day. We're here to help you get your offers approved, and we think this is one of those strategies to do that. Have a great one, guys.